Hi everyone, thank you for watching I See Melanie. Today we're talking about The Bear, the 8th episode of season 3. It is titled Ice Chips and it focuses on Sugar and the birth of her baby daughter. And most of the episode, Sugar is with her mom, Donna, so you know that it was a very challenging time for her. Birth, labor, and her mother. Very difficult time. So I should say I've been trying to avoid spoilers of The Bear, and up until I watched this episode, which was maybe about a week or two ago at this point, I'd seen around that this episode was terrible, and I didn't think it was terrible. I feel as though some of these episodes where they're very character, like based on one character, I feel as though depending on what the topic is, it could resonate with the audience if they've had that experience or not. So say, for example, with the Tina episode, I really related to that one a lot. So that one meant a lot to me. And I could see this relating to somebody who has an alcoholic parent or who's going through pregnancy or just going through like a very challenging time. So I actually thought this episode was pretty good. Obviously, the mom is a lot to deal with. And it's not that Jamie Lee Curtis's performance wasn't good or well executed, because obviously it was. But just think like, I don't know. I feel so bad for people who have parents who are like that. Like some are from alcoholism and some just that's their personality traits and personality. So it's very challenging for Sugar. So anyway, we see she gets there. She's on the highway. She can't reach anybody. Nobody's answering their phone. Of course, Carmi's not answering his phone because we know Carmi. And as a last resort, she calls Donna. And she comes along, and of course, she's making it all about her, like, oh, you're going through labor, and being all stressed out, telling her to breathe, like, he, like they did in Lamaze back in, like, the 80s and stuff like that. And so she's just getting really frustrated with her on the way to the entrance of the hospital. And one thing, like, I know, obviously, the relationship is very strained, and she's going through a very stressful time in labor right now, but I could not imagine telling my mother at my grown age, I'm older than Sugar, I can't imagine telling my mother to STFU. Like, that just would never happen. Again, totally different relationships, but it was just like, wow. If you're comfortable telling your mom to shut the F up, like, things aren't good. I would say that this is almost like a real-time depiction of labor. Obviously, it's not real-time per se, but a lot of the small moments that lead up to like a long labor and a little discussions and the waiting and the discomfort and all that kind of stuff, I feel as though this episode is basically that. So you've got this person, Sugar, who's in distress with the most stressful person there. And of course, you see Donna talking to the staff about like her time when she was having a baby and all these different things, like kind of making the situation about her, which of course we would expect Donna to be like that, but obviously it's very unnerving for Sugar. And it's just so funny how, you know, mothers are like this, whether they're like Donna or not, but they have their ideas, right? And especially in situations where they've been through it before. So Donna's had 3 kids. This is Sugar's first kid. And so when Sugar's talking to the doctor or the nurse about her birth plan and about how she doesn't want an epidural or any drugs, she wants to do it naturally because she wants to be able to move and she wants to be able to have, I don't know, memories of the situation or whatever, right? And the mom's like, you don't want an epidural? And then she was saying like how painful it was and how it hurt so much, like it hurt like a mofo and all this stuff. But she's like, oh, you know, but you'll be fine. You know, you do it. So it's like, it's nice that she's respecting Sugar's plans, but saying like, oh, you know, you should do what you feel like doing, but saying like your decision is really stupid, it's going to really hurt you. It's kind of like, you know, it kind of negates the other. One thing negates the other, but this is Donna, so. And we see Sugar does eventually cave to this plan, even though, again, she's probably had her birth plan mapped out for months or weeks. But kind of going back to what she was listening to last week with the different personality types of children of alcoholics, and from what she said herself, that she always kind of caves to her mother. And it's kind of like a mix of 2 different things. So it's like, yeah, obviously that's her personality trait. Like her mother's very domineering. So it's natural that she would kind of cave to her. But also her mom does have the experience, right? So, and she's her mom. Moms, no matter how old the kid gets, they're still like a baby. So there's that. In the last episode, we heard Sugar listening to an audiobook talking about the characteristics of offspring of alcoholics. And so I Googled it, and Google showed me a whole lot more. I think like 14 or more than 10 different personality types of children of alcoholics. So it was very eye-opening to see a lot of things I never really considered, because I can't really relate to that story. But it's, my mom always tells me, or always says, when we hear stories about, kids who aren't doing well for like whatever reason, she always used to say, she always used to say adults, the parents, are the first people to mess their kids up if they mess them up. And so this kind of bears that point out. Throughout the entire thing, it's just mainly Donna and Sugar talking. And one point they were talking about her labors, and Mikey's in particular, and she was saying, it was difficult and it was long. And then she said, like, it was almost as if he just wanted to stay in there. And they both started crying, and that kind of made me a little emotional too, because, obviously we know what happened with Mikey eventually. And not that a grown man like him wanted to stay in his mom's uterus the entire time, but just knowing that, ultimately he felt as though he wasn't equipped to be in the world. So that was kind of sad. That was sad, actually. Of course, the mom had to be awkward when she was rubbing her back and like, her butt and stuff. She's like, oh, your butt feels like your dad's butt, which is like so weird. Like, why would you say that? And Sugar's like, get off me. This is so weird. Why would you say that? But, Donna's gonna Donna. And later on, she suggests the ice chips. And, Sugar seems to appreciate that and like the sensation of the ice chips. And that's where we get the title of this episode. And again, we see that she does eventually cave to the drugs. She wants drugs, again, listening to her mom and just listening to what her body feels it needs, really, because she's in a lot of pain. We get to the point where Donna comes out and says, I get the impression that you don't want me to be around. Like, obviously, you didn't tell me that you were pregnant for a very, very long time. And now that I'm thinking of it, I don't know if she even knew she was pregnant until this moment when she called her in to be with her during the labor. And Sugar admits that, yeah, I didn't, because I didn't want to have that baggage that you bring with you with me. And, it's a very hard thing to say to your mom, and it's a hard thing to receive. The mom says that she's working on it. And so that's why I was confused, or I didn't know whether or not her mom is like actively drinking or if she's just in recovery. I'm not quite sure, because she says she's working on it. And I always think like, for anybody, it's hard to change habits. It's hard for me to change habits. But when you're, a mature lady, and one of your habits was something so all-consuming, how do you change that? Like, what are you actually doing to remedy that? Are you not drinking anymore? Are you going to meetings? Are you going to therapy? Have you taken up some other kind of an activity to take your mind off things? Like, what are you actually doing? And she doesn't get into it, which I guess, at that time, while she's in labor, maybe that can wait till afterwards. But I was just curious to know what she's doing and how active she is in her alcoholism. Sugar has a lot going on in her mind at all times. She is always carrying these heavy emotions with her. And I actually had to write them down, because there is so much and so heavy. It's like, I can't imagine carrying all that all the time. So she doesn't want her daughter to be afraid like she's afraid. She says she feels like everyone's mad at her all the time, that she's always asking people if they're all right. If someone else feels sick, she feels sick. She feels alone. She feels ugly and always in trouble or always troubled. And she feels like Pete's going to leave her. It's like, oh my gosh, that is a lot to carry. And you know what, to be honest, I knew, and I got the impression that she had some of these feelings in the episode from last year, Fishes, when they're all at the dinner, and I think when they were like outside smoking and talking, like the siblings were. But if you were to see her now in the restaurant, you can see that she's got a lot on her mind. But I didn't think it was to this extent. Like, this is a lot. So yeah, I can totally understand why she didn't tell her mom these types of things. And on a side note, the last episode from last season, when they were having the opening, the soft launch, the family and friends opening, and she invited her mom, which the mom showed up, but she didn't actually go into the restaurant, and Pete never told her that, the mom was actually there. Anyway, the idea that she invited her mom to such a high stress environment at night, I thought was absolutely crazy. I thought it was such a bad idea for both she and Carmi. And, as sad as it is, I'm glad the mom just went home because that would have been a mess. But knowing that she carries all these different emotions and she just wants everything around her to be, good and right, I can understand why she did invite her. But yeah. Donna tells Sugar that her feelings about all these bad things that could potentially happen to her, that they're irrational. And it's so funny because I find, especially with the older generation, every generation has its thing, but like, I feel as though the older generation, they think when people are having, either emotional problems or like mental problems, that if it's not rational, it doesn't make sense. But like, people aren't rational all the time. And so I know even for me, like, I don't know why I talk about my personal life so much when I talk about the show, but I know there have been times where I've talked to like my parents who are boomers, and especially my dad, he'll say like, oh, that makes no sense. That's irrational. It's like, it doesn't have to be rational for me to feel bad about something or feel negative or feel like, a degree of doom is coming. I feel the way I feel. And I'm a millennial too. I'm a little bit older than Sugar, but it's a different generation. I also think it has to do with parent and child and stuff like that. But the older generation, sometimes they don't understand, and I think that's kind of always the case. Like when I'm old, I'll probably feel the same way too about the younger generations. But I thought that was interesting to show because, again, one thing I really do like about the show is the interplay between all the different generations, boomers, the Gen X's, the millennials and stuff, and how everyone relates to each other. So I really appreciate that part of the episode. Sugar mentions that she's always trying to make her mom happy and that she makes herself feel sick in the effort to make her mom happy. And the mom says, oh, that's so sweet. She's like, that's not sweet. That's not sweet. That's not a good thing. So again, the difference between, I don't know. Again, I really hope that Donna is taking whatever steps, i.e. therapy, to kind of, reconcile the issues that she has with herself and with her children. So yeah. And also, I don't recall if they've ever explicitly said what happened to the dad. I do not recall. Obviously, we've heard references in the past, and a lot in this season. Cicero mentions that he wishes he was there for the kids more so when they were growing up. So I wonder when they're actually going to talk about the dad. We see that Donna and Sugar, move on, and they just begin to talk about, the memories, and Donna shares with her the song that she listened to when she was in labor, and they just have a nice mother-daughter moment. And eventually, soon after, Pete arrives, and Donna slinks out of the room, which I thought was actually quite impressive because I thought that she would make some kind of big to-do or insist on staying there, but she very quietly moves along and goes into the waiting room, and we see the Thack brothers are there to, support her and to wait with her, and the episode ends. So I thought that this was a very good episode of the show. Again, it's slower. Slow is good. This is a very character-based episode. It's not really meant for plot. Like, not much moved except for she had the baby, but we knew that was coming anyway. But we got a better sense of what Sugar is like. And again, like, I knew from the previous seasons and from previous episodes that, she holds on to a lot and she's a very unifying force within the family. But I did not realize the extent to which she carries all this burden, because she's a person who, if you saw her, you'd see she might look a little bit stressed out, obviously, but you wouldn't expect her to have all these deep-seated issues. So I'm glad that she was able to unearth them, and hopefully she can work those out too. I know she has the audiobook, so she, I would think that she's open to therapy. So who knows, after the baby is born, she can venture and get herself some therapy as well. The episode, it was a little bit long. I think they could have condensed some of the moments a little bit. I think Jamie Lee Curtis did a good job. I think she was maybe a little bit over the top with the acting. I do think that all the acclaim that Fishes got last year, she wanted to kind of top that, or she was directed to top that. She could have toned things down like a little bit, but I also do recognize that that is true to the character. So yeah, all in all, good episode. And yes, I have 2 more. I've got 9 and 10, which I'll be releasing soon. So make sure you subscribe to I See Melanie. Put on the notifications so you see when the video comes out. And I will see you later here. And you guys have a good day. Bye.